Across the fields, the Black Doctor is coming to us. I don't know where that rhyme came from, and it's also a rather grim joke. Who is the Black Doctor? The Black Raven van, remember? Yes, it's the same thing, only this one's benevolent. Black Doctor is more of a folk name, and it fully captures the essence of this vehicle. The Russian people always come up with apt descriptions. Black Doctors was the name given to ambulances used for the Soviet Union's party elite. The main purpose of the vehicle was to get a high-ranking patient to the hospital as quickly as possible, and preferably not to stand out visually from the motorcade. An amazing vehicle, weighing almost 4 tons on its own and nearly 5 when fully loaded, it moves in a very stately, relaxed, and leisurely manner. Almost with a sense of disdain, you could say. But if you need to step on it, you press the accelerator, and in 13 seconds, you're out of reach. For domestic cars, back in the 1980s. The idea that those in power needed their own ambulance was already being considered back in the mid-1950s. The technical assignment was simple. A large, modern, high-speed car that didn't look much different from other government vehicles. The assignment was given to 2 factories, Gaz and ZIL. Gorky workers weren't happy, being already overworked, so they passed the task to subordinates at Riga RAF. ZIL. There was no choice. They had to create and fast. Fortunately, the construction of all the party's vehicles had an impressive margin of strength. And the peripheral frame allowed for a lot as well. I'll talk about those who were the first medics another time. For example, the ZIL-41042, if I can find it. But today we'll dedicate all our time to a unique car, probably the last one preserved in its original condition and still running. The ZIL-41042. The base model, the ZIL-4104, began production in 1978 and was made until 1983. Then came the ZIL-41045. It was assembled by hand until 1985. The next generation, ZIL-41047, was, so to speak, the final one and died out around the 2010s. Why am I telling you my family tree? The thing is that the basic models changed, but the names did not. ZIL-41042. Of course, noticeable external modifications did appear, but the base, so to speak, of the listed ZILs remained the same. If you look under the car at the front, you won't see any springs or leaf springs. They're not there. Instead, as an elastic element, there are torsion bars with a diameter of 28 millimeters on each side. One end of these bars is attached to the frame, the other to the lower control arms. Also, the front suspension uses kingpins, that is, ball joints. There are also shock absorbers and an anti-roll bar. The rear suspension uses leaf springs, but the springs have few leaves and are quite long, 1,550 millimeters. The rear axle is attached to them asymmetrically. It's shifted forward, and in general, because of the heavy weight, they're always flexed and look straight. Ideally, the car was equipped with bulletproof tires called Granite. It's no coincidence, and quite logical, that this car is in the Museum of the Special Purpose Garage of the Federal Protective Service of the Russian Federation at VDNH. The 4th Main Directorate of the Ministry of Health and the Special Purpose Garage also took part in the decision to create such an ambulance. The ZIL had to fit into the official motorcade. As you can easily see, the main difference from regular ZILs is the superstructure on the roof. The engineers had to completely recalculate the design so as not to lose rigidity of the body. That's why the superstructure starts from the front doors. Up to the first pillar, it's a regular ZIL without changes, but after that, it becomes completely unique. It seems like the rear doors are the same, but they're not. The frames are cut a little differently. The rear windows are completely original, and there are 2 sets of them. Interestingly, almost all the chrome was preserved for the ambulance, the radiator grille and the headlight assembly. long moldings above the doors and at the bottom, and of course the bumpers. The body was painted in 9, sometimes 15 layers of paint, with each layer dried and polished in between. So, this is a door. Not a door. This is the trunk. Look here, the spare wheel. In a regular ZIL, well, there are no regular ZILs. Alright, it's stored in the trunk. In the station wagon, they solved the problem. Like this. There should also be tools stored here, and there's a socket for a portable lamp. Now the trunk. In previous generations of ZILs, the door consisted of 2 halves, an upper and a lower one. Here they decided to make a single flap. The only thing that hasn't been preserved in this car is the stretcher. It used to slide inside, right along these guides. I'll show you how now. The front part of the stretcher was placed on a moving platform and pushed into the cabin. The rear part was fixed on a rubber podium. The cabin is enormous in length. Inside, with relative comfort, 3 doctors and a patient were supposed to fit. 2 of the medical staff sat with their backs to the wall, and the 3rd sat opposite, facing the precious patient. Velour, like in civilian cars, was not used in the cabin's interior. Only leather. It's easier to clean and doesn't get dirty. We're not even talking about floor mats. There are shelves with equipment along the sides. It's worth noting that surgeries were not supposed to be performed in these vehicles. The medical equipment in the standard ambulance van was more varied, but these vehicles were equipped with the most advanced equipment, life support. Actually, there's still one seat missing, which was located to the right of the patient. Let's explore the compartments. In general, you're watching a very unique video. No one has ever filmed this vehicle before, so a big thank you to those who allowed it to be filmed. On the right side, by the way, we have a 220-volt outlet, air conditioner, warmer or cooler, cabin lighting, 4 strange devices. I don't even know what they're for. Here's a mount for IV drips. Most likely, there was a compact defibrillator here. Well, and some more niches for something, most likely for oxygen tanks. At least that's what I think. I can't come up with any other explanation. If anyone knows, write in the comments. There are all sorts of interesting little shelves. So what we have here is essentially a clock, and if you carefully take the time to fold everything up inside and leave nothing but the medical stretcher behind, the entire car will undergo a transformation and turn into a somber hearse. Under the huge hood hides a huge engine. A V8 4-stroke engine, delivering 315 horsepower at 4,000 to 4,600 RPM. Displacement is 7,695 cc. The bore is 108 millimeters, and the piston stroke is 105 millimeters. The ignition system has 2 electrical circuits, the main and the emergency. The cooling system has both liquid and oil radiators. Now that's an angle. The driver's seat. Everything is comfortable, but you kind of want to move back just a little bit. But alas, you can't. There's a solid wall behind, although the seats themselves are simply amazing. In this area and in the cabin compartment, genuine natural wood is used for the trim. Karelian birch. Divine. By the way, the sound system here is actually a bit more basic than in the main cars. There have also been some minor cutbacks to the special signals. They're not here, nor is there a control panel for them. But in all other respects, this is a classic executive car interior. With huge leather sofas, enormous instrument wells, and an epic wood-trimmed dashboard. The plastics are soft, the atmosphere is cozy, and the scent of the motherland is present. But the vent windows are already gone. A gigantic, luxurious Volga in terms of perception. Anti-glare cones on the instruments. Light switches like on a truck, only more elegant. Indicator lights on top of the dashboard. 3-speed hydro-mechanical transmission. You can engage first gear, for example, when driving in the mountains. Window control panel. The steering wheel is adjustable in one plane, up and down. Well, that's to make it easier to get out, but you can also adjust it for yourself. And everything is made of such metal that you can't break it. Have you seen the ZIL key? Spark plug, contact, and lightning bolt. Now that's a real sound. That's true power. You want to floor the pedal and accelerate away, but you can't. And this car can actually accelerate up to 190 kilometers per hour. Can you imagine how fast that was in the late 80s when this ZIL was produced? The constantly loaded suspension absorbs bumps very smoothly. Speed bumps are barely noticeable to the passengers as the Black Doctor glides over them. And you can't hear a thing. You absolutely can't hear the suspension working. The secret is simple. There are anti-squeak plates between the leaf springs. You don't feel the height in the turns. You just float through them. The power steering feels nice. You don't have to strain at all when braking. And the brakes here aren't just any brakes, they're from the armored version. On the ZIL-41042, the front brake discs are thicker than on the base model, 32 millimeters instead of 26. But the braking distance is still considerable. From 80 kilometers per hour, it's 40 meters. But honestly, what are 40 meters when you're driving on an empty, or rather, an emptier road? Well, what else should I mention? As usual, the fuel consumption is 22 liters per hour, which is actually pretty normal. But the only gasoline used was AI-95 Extra for engines with a high compression ratio. This isn't about Moskvich or Zhigulis. This is about the ZIL and also the Chaika. The camera can't capture smells, the scent of leather, the tang of gasoline, and plastic. And dust, of course, from age. All domestic cars smell like this. I emphasize all of them. The smell of childhood. Did you see these buttons here? That's a headlight washer. Whose headlights are those? Actually, let me rephrase. Who ended up with the ZIL's headlights? The OK. In the 1990s, the Kremlin's medical vehicles were doomed to extinction. And it wasn't about sabotage or a deliberate rejection of the symbols of the era. It simply became economically sensible to buy regular ambulances based on foreign vehicles. They had everything, and sometimes the quality was even better. There's not even any point in talking about operating and repair costs. How many Black Doctors were built? Fewer than you have fingers on one hand. How many have survived? Not all of them. Fewer than you have fingers on one hand. I don't know how to end this, so the hunt simply continues.